We begin the 10 p.m. hour tracking Ian as the storm is over the Florida peninsula right now after making landfall on the west side of Florida. Earlier this afternoon around 3:05 was the official landfall of the center of the storm near the Fort Myers area. Now that center of circulation is over land and we're actually seeing that eye disappearing. So it's still a strong area of low pressure. It's still a hurricane, but it's beginning to lose some of its structure since it's over land, and that's causing it to weaken somewhat. On the west side here, we still have a tornado watch in effect with some of these bands. We can see tornadoes developing there. Here you can see what we're watching near the Sebring area. That's close to the center of circulation, moving up toward the north and also to the east. And that's going to move over the peninsula and then eventually move back out over water. Here's the latest that we have. This is the 10 o'clock position update and speed update here, showing us now max winds down to 100 miles an hour. So we've been watching this go from 150 mile an hour winds, and then it's inland. Each update showing those winds coming down just a little bit, now down to 100 mile an hour winds. That's still a Category 2 hurricane though, over land right now. It'll keep moving up toward the north and east, and then we're thinking by tomorrow afternoon this would become a tropical storm. And just as it's weakening to a tropical storm, it moves back out over water on the Atlantic side, stays over water for a bit in the morning hours on Friday, and then afternoon hours on Friday, this is when we could have another landfall. That's why we have a tropical storm warning in effect for the Georgia and South Carolina coast and a hurricane watch, because if this gets any stronger, it could be hurricane strength again. So there have a watch out for the potential for another hurricane for it to be upgraded to a hurricane there again. And then the remnants go up into South Carolina and North Carolina, and it falls apart. So this track here, well up to the north on Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock, takes it pretty far away from us. So things are actually improving for the Saturday forecast. And if this track keeps shifting more over to the east, our impacts here in North Georgia and Metro Atlanta will actually be a little bit lower. So that's what we're going to be fine-tuning for you over the next few days. Here's another look at those warnings. And the tropical storm warning is just not along the coast. It extends inland a little bit for those counties there along the coastline and even that second tier of counties inland. Also, there's a hurricane watch in effect too. And then we have the yellow showing a tropical storm watch. That extends up the Georgia-South Carolina line up to the Augusta area. So it's possible they could have some tropical storm force winds even as far inland as over in Augusta. So we have a tropical storm or tropical surge warning in effect for the Georgia coast and also up into the South Carolina coast. That's because as the storm moves inland, it's going to be spreading that wall of water in as well. And in some areas that can be between 1 and maybe even 6 feet of a storm surge. The orange colors that you see here on the map, some of that around Savannah and south of Savannah. And again, this is where some areas are a little more susceptible to storm surge than others, but they can be up to 6 feet above the ground, but mostly we're seeing the blues and yellows, which is really 1 to 3 feet above the ground for the storm surge. So we're really working hard to try to refine the impacts that we're going to have here in Metro Atlanta. And every time you see that track of Ian go more to the east, then we can lower our rain totals and we can lower our wind threats too. So right now, we're saying the rain threats up to 2 inches here in the metro area, 2 to 4 inches over in East Georgia and into South Carolina. And really for the metro area, we can divide that even more. On the west side of the metro area, rain totals maybe a ½ inch. And then on the east side of the metro area, that's where it might get up to 2 inches. Winds 10 to 20 miles an hour. There will be some higher gusts at times. Again, that's going to be Friday and into Saturday. And it looks like the severe weather threat is going to be well to the east of us, mainly over into South Carolina. So here's the long-range model showing that rain coming up toward the Georgia coast during the day tomorrow, and then that next landfall happening on Friday afternoon. But with that, we start to see some of the rain spreading in from the east. And then check it out, on Saturday, with that center moving up into North Carolina, that pulls a lot of the rain out of here. So things actually looking better for the Braves game on Saturday night. Friday night, we might have a better coverage of rain around, but then Saturday, things may be looking better. And then on Sunday, just a couple of lingering showers around, but I think most areas will stay dry for a big part of the day Sunday.